From the outset of this series, my intention has been to show that monks are playable. I'm not saying they're incredible, I'm saying they're playable. So that is the benchmark I'm shooting for with this 4 elements monk optimized build. Now a note, when I say 4 elements monk optimized build, it means I'm not allowing myself to take more than 3 levels in any other class. I think it's silly when we say it's an optimized 4 elements monk build and there's 9 levels of druid. I think that's silly. Now as far as making the 4 elements monk an optimal build, we're really going to lean into our stunning strike build. Everything the 4 elements monk wants to do is based on our wisdom, so by making our attacks based on our wisdom, we really get the best of both worlds as well as we can. However, I'm also going to be mentioning a secondary build. It's not going to be as good, but I do want to talk about the fact that we have some interesting things we can do as a 4 elements archer that I kind of like. We're going to be taking a Tasha's variant half elf. This gives us enough stats to get +3 in all of our big ones and then 1 extra point so we can combine it with a half feat. The half feat I'm going to be taking a look at is Fey Touched. It rounds out our wisdom and then gives us Misty Step to work with, as well as a silvery barbs that we can use to get another shot at a stunning strike. Our first level is going to be in druid. It's going to do the normal things, gives us shillelagh and the magic stone that we can work with, but all of our other levels are going to be in monk. Now I want to mention that most of our spell slots are going to go towards entangle. We have silvery barbs, but unless we really need to get that stun off, we're going to save those for entangle. But just keep in mind, we do get 1 silvery barbs for free once we get our Fey Touched. So our first decision making point comes in at level 4, our monk 3, and we get to choose our first elemental ability. Fist of the Unbroken Air is the clear winner, but if you wanted more damage output at this level, you can take Burning Hands, but expect to swap it out later. A Fist of Unbroken Air lets us do some pretty interesting things, has great synergy with Stunning Strike because they automatically fail to save. So if you stun someone next to a cliff, next turn you can 100% knock them off. Our nuke comes online as well. If you guys don't know what the nuke is, if you stun someone 1 turn, you can spend literally every key point you have to do, let's say we have 5 key points. On the next turn, if you do Fist of Unbroken Air and spend all 5 of those key points, you're going to do 6d10 of damage. It's not an efficient use of ki, but it does let us do a big burst damage altogether at the expense of all of our ki. Should only be used in very particular situations, but I think it's actually some pretty unique synergy. Fist of Unbroken Air also allows us to have an anti-air cannon. We can knock people out of the air and then beat them up once they hit the floor. That's pretty cool. And if I was looking at the archery build here, I might actually consider the Gust of Wind to keep people away from us while we pluck them with arrows. Pretty unique, very niche, but something I might consider if I'm looking for more of a flavor build than an optimal build. Once we hit monk 5, Stunning Strike is probably going to be more efficient than Fist of Unbroken Air most of the time, so it's still going to be our bread and butter. With our extra silvery barbs, we are a pretty dang good stunner as far as monks go. As we keep progressing, the next one I'm going to pick up is Gong of the Summit. This is going to give us our AOE option. That is something that the 4 elements monk does better than any other monk. The only problem is we have to compete with crazy classes like Wizard who have incredible destructive power. We're not going to be able to compete with them. So if only monks existed, the 4 elements monk would have a great niche, but that niche is just dominated by powerful classes right now. However, as far as monks go, we can take care of crowds better than any other monk, and that really begins with Gong of the Summit. But we're going to get rid of Gong of the Summit once we get Flames of the Phoenix. Fireball is just going to be our most efficient blast. And also at this level, we can pick up Fly. Fly is something that every monk wants and none of them are really getting. So it's another niche that we have that's really, really nice. So up to this point, we've really not wanted to do anything concentration because we don't have good concentration saves. I think there's some interesting synergy once you get Diamond Soul from the main class. We now have proficiency in con saves. And so after we hit monk 14, we can now start considering some of the concentration spells. The only one I'm really looking at is going to be Wave of Rolling Earth. It's going to be expensive as hell, so you really need to get a lot out of it, but it is a good control spell. Now there's Eternal Mountain defense, but just 1 level later, we get Empty Body, and Empty Body is just a way better Eternal Mountain defense, so there's no point in taking it at all. So where are we at with this build? We focus on our wisdom primarily. We can attack with wisdom in melee using shillelagh, or we can use magic stone to attack at range. And then our utility belt is built from our 4 elements disciplines. What our utility belt is really going to be used for is we have it for an anti-air cannon, we have it to knock people off cliffs or try and do a nuke amount of damage. We have it for AOE blasting. We even have some control in there, and then we have some utility with fly. So it's quite an extensive utility belt once we get to those later levels. But our main bread and butter is still going to be our stuns as a monk. We are not the most tanky. We really want to be careful about where we position because we can die quite quickly if our position is poor. So I've mentioned this archer build a couple times. I'm going to give you just like a quick and dirty rundown. This isn't a detailed rundown at all, but I just want you guys to be aware of it because I think it's neat. Now this isn't an optimal build, but it is an interesting one where you can pick up an archery 4 elements monk. You can rely on your key fueled attacks in combination with your utility build. So you can do some things like a fireball and then shoot a bow afterwards. I think there's some really interesting ones you can pick up because Fist of Unbroken Air isn't going to be as good in that situation. So you can pick up the Gust of Wind. Who is using Gust of Wind at all? There's like no build that uses Gust of Wind. So I think it's interesting for that reason. I don't think it's crazy good, but I did want to mention it because I think it's a cool flavor build at the very least. Now this is my take on optimizing the 4 elements monk, but I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are. What would you do to make it even better? Let me know in the comments down below. But other than that, hope you have yourselves a kick-ass day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.